You wake up in ancient Mesopotamia. No coffee, no breakfast cereal, no running water. You are thirsty. You walk to the river. The same river where animals drink, where waste flows, where disease lives. You cup your hands and drink anyway because there is nothing else. Somewhere across the world, at the exact same moment in history, a farmer in China is doing the same thing. A worker in Egypt is doing the same thing. A warrior in Scandinavia is doing the same thing. All of them thirsty. All of them drinking contaminated water. All of them getting sick. All of them dying young. And then, completely independently, with zero contact with each other, separated by oceans and thousands of miles and thousands of years, all of them discovered the exact same solution. Not medicine, not water filtration, not any technology we would recognize today. Beer. And when modern scientists finally understood why every single human civilization on Earth independently invented beer, the answer was not about drinking. It was not about celebration. It was not even about alcohol. It was about survival, about trust, about something so deeply wired into what humans are that it crossed every ocean, every language barrier, every cultural difference in human history. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never see a drink the same way again. Let us start with what we know for certain. In 1994, archaeologists exploring Chauvet Cave in southern France found paintings created 30,000 years ago. Sophisticated art. Horses, lions, rhinoceroses, drawn with perspective and shading and movement. Someone spent hours deep inside a cave by firelight, making something beautiful. Not for food, not for survival, for something else entirely. In 2008, researchers found a 40,000-year-old flute carved from a vulture bone in Germany. 5 perfectly spaced finger holes. Whoever made this understood music, understood pitch, spent significant time creating something with no survival value whatsoever. And in 3900 BC, someone in Mesopotamia picked up a piece of wet clay and pressed marks into it. The oldest written document ever discovered in human history. Not a prayer, not a map, not a record of battle, a beer recipe. The very first thing humans decided was important enough to write down and preserve for all of eternity was how to make beer. Here is what nobody tells you about ancient water. It was trying to kill you. Every river, every well, every natural water source in the ancient world was contaminated with bacteria, parasites, and pathogens that caused dysentery, cholera, and typhoid fever. Diseases that killed adults within days. Diseases that killed children within hours. In the ancient world, drinking untreated water was not inconvenient. It was one of the most dangerous daily activities a human being could perform. But here is what fermentation does. When grain gets wet and sits in a warm clay pot, wild yeast, floating invisibly in the air, landing on every surface, existing everywhere on Earth in every climate and every era, begins consuming the natural sugars inside the grain. This process produces 2 things, carbon dioxide and alcohol. No human knowledge required, no chemistry, no intention. Just grain, water, warm air, and time. And the alcohol and the acidic environment that fermentation creates kills most of the harmful bacteria that would otherwise make you violently ill. Ancient beer was only 1 to 3% alcohol. Barely stronger than a modern kombucha, and it was scientifically and measurably safer to drink than the local water supply. But it was not just safer, it was food. Ancient beer contained B vitamins, amino acids, and significant calories. It was thick and nutritious, closer to liquid bread than to anything you would recognize today. Egyptian workers building the Great Pyramid of Giza, the most ambitious construction project in human history, received 4 to 5 liters of beer per day as their primary source of hydration and nutrition. Not as a luxury, not as a reward for hard work, as their meal, as their medicine, as their survival. Every man drank it, every woman drank it, every child drank it, Every elderly person drank it, not occasionally, every single day, because the alternative was the river, and the river was killing people. But survival still does not explain why every single civilization decided their gods invented it. The Sumerians created a goddess named Ninkasi, the goddess of beer. They wrote her a hymn, a song of worship and devotion. But when archaeologists translated that hymn, they found something extraordinary hidden inside the lyrics. The entire brewing process, step by step, ingredient by ingredient, encoded inside a religious song. It was a hymn and a recipe simultaneously. Sacred text and instruction manual at exactly the same time. The Egyptians believed Osiris himself, god of death and the afterlife, personally taught humans to brew beer as a divine gift. The Aztecs had a goddess named Mayahuel, whose 400 children each represented a different stage of intoxication. The Vikings believed Valhalla, their version of paradise, had an endless supply of mead flowing from a magical goat for eternity. Every civilization, every corner of the planet. The same story. The gods gave us this drink on purpose. And when you understand what the ancient world actually felt like, how exhausting it was, how terrifying, how uncertain every single day was, you begin to understand why. When an ancient human drank fermented grain and felt their fear dissolve, felt the crushing weight of daily survival temporarily lift, felt strangers around the fire suddenly feel like friends, they had no science to explain what was happening inside their brain. No neuroscience, no understanding of alcohol and dopamine and brain receptors, so they concluded the only rational thing available to them. Something divine put this feeling inside this drink. The gods are speaking to us through fermentation. Beer was not just food. It was not just medicine. It was the first technology humans ever developed for touching something larger than themselves. But here is the part that should hit closest to home. Beer made strangers trust each other. Think about what that means in the ancient world. Meeting someone from a different tribe was not a networking opportunity. It was a threat assessment. Other humans competed for the same food, the same water, the same territory. Trusting the wrong stranger could get you killed. But sharing a drink changed something fundamental in that calculation. When you drink from the same vessel as another person, when you willingly consume something they prepared for you, you are sending a signal that goes deeper than any language. You are saying, I trust that this is not poison. I trust your intentions. I am willing to be vulnerable in your presence. Anthropologists have found massive communal brewing vessels at archaeological sites across the globe. Clay pots too large for any single family, built for gatherings. Built for strangers becoming something more than strangers around a shared drink. And brewing itself required cooperation. You needed grain farmers, potter craftsmen, water carriers, brewers who understood the process, people to distribute the finished product. No single person could do it alone. Beer production forced communities to organize, to specialize, to coordinate, to extend trust beyond the people they already knew. The first legal codes ever written, including the Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest legal documents in history, contained extensive beer laws. The correct price of beer, how much workers were entitled to receive. What happened to tavern owners who watered down their product? Beer did not just bring people together. It forced humans to create rules about fairness. And rules about fairness are the foundation of every civilization that has ever existed. Here is the moment that should feel uncomfortably familiar. The reason you instinctively suggest grabbing drinks with someone you want to build a relationship with, a new coworker, a potential business partner, a person you want to know better. That instinct is 9,000 years old and encoded into human behavior. So deeply it crosses every cultural boundary on Earth. Now, I need to tell you the theory that started an academic war. Standard history gives us a clean sequence. Humans hunted, then farmed. Serp's grain accidentally fermented into beer. Civilization followed. Neat, comfortable. But in 1953, archaeologist Robert Braidwood proposed something that outraged his colleagues. What if humans did not settle down to eat more reliably? What if they settled down specifically to brew beer? The evidence is uncomfortable. The earliest grain storage sites are dramatically larger than any local population needed for food, but exactly right for brewing beer for ritual gatherings of hundreds. Then there is Göbekli Tepe in southern Turkey, the oldest temple on Earth, built 12,000 years ago, 2,000 years before any farming settlement nearby. Inside, enormous stone fermentation troughs capable of serving hundreds at once. People were building temples and brewing beer before they were farming. Which leaves one question. Did we start the agricultural revolution because we were hungry, or because we were thirsty for something we had already decided we could not live without? Here is what the evidence shows. The first written documents in human history are beer ration records. Not prayers, not stories, beer counts. The first wages ever paid were paid in beer. The first taxes collected were grain specifically for brewing. The first professional class mentioned in ancient texts is not soldiers or priests, brewers. Writing itself was almost certainly invented to track beer. Who made it? Who received it? Who stole it? 6 civilizations, no contact, thousands of years apart. All the same answer. Because the need for safety, nutrition, trust, and connection to something sacred is not cultural. It is human. Universally, unavoidably human. Your ancestors did not build civilization and then celebrate with beer. They made beer, and beer built civilization for them. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think beer built civilization, or was it just a happy accident? Drop your answer in the comments right now. If this changed how you see something you thought you already understood, hit the like button. And if you want more of this, subscribe. Every week, we take one question that sounds simple and pull it apart until the answer changes how you see the world. See you next week.